Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Today we continue our series making a case for each Primarch being the greatest, with Ferrus Manus, Primarch of the Iron Hands. A general spoiler warning to begin, as today we will be referencing events from across the Warhammer 40k universe, so you have been warned, and with that said, let's waste no time and just jump straight in. Now, the Gorgon has absolutely got to be the toughest pitch in this series. His death and exit so early in the heresy not only drastically limited the page time for Ferrus, but it also left a bit of a cloud over the Iron Hands Primarch, over his reputation, with his being the only notable death for most of the heresy. It did undoubtedly stand out, but I'd say that's probably unfair to Ferrus. We've spoken about the death of him a few times over the years, and when you really break it down and look at the events of it, it wasn't as blindly hot-headed and foolish as it's generally said to be. In fact, Ferrus's logic was fairly sound in launching the attack at Istvan. He thought he had the full might of 4 more legions arriving in system, and he did have a slight numbers advantage before their arrival anyway. He couldn't possibly have known the betrayal that was to come. And as for his death at Fulgrim's hand, as I said in Fulgrim's pitch, the Phoenician is a vastly underrated Primarch. He was, especially in the earlier Heresy installments, easily portrayed and considered amongst the very best. Any Primarch can beat any Primarch with the slightest mistake, and that absolutely stood for Fulgrim. There's no shame in Ferrus's defeat. In fact, Ferrus's unbridled rage at Fulgrim's attempts to turn him from the Emperor's side is one of the absolute greatest things about Ferrus Manus. No other loyal Primarch reacted in such pure anger at the notion. I'll give Corax's due for the anger upon Istvan, but the revelation, the first word of Horus's betrayal, the Primarchs largely responded in dumbfounded confusion, shock and disbelief. However, Ferrus went ballistic. The mere thought of turning from the Emperor's light, betraying him, was not only inconceivable, but downright insulting. He was insulted that Fulgrim had even contemplated for a nanosecond that Ferrus could be turned from his father's light, and it pissed him off. Honestly, we talk of the unshakable loyalty of Lehman Russ, Lionel Johnson, Rogel Dawn or the Angel Sanguinius, but Ferrus legit put them all in the shade. And that may well be why the Emperor clearly had Ferrus amongst his most preferred sons. When Vulcan was found, it was to Ferrus the Emperor took him, valuing the Gorgon's opinion. It was Ferrus who was placed in command of the Retribution fleet, sent to bring the traitor Warmaster in. A sign that not only would Ferrus have the character to oppose the brightest son Horus Lupercal without hesitation, but that he'd be able to do what needed to be done if he had to. After Ferrus's death, we saw the Emperor conjure the image of Ferrus in fiery wrath within the webway, a clear sign that he lamented the loss of the Primarch, and it was further reinforced during the Emperor's game of regicide with Malcador, where the Emperor commented on something needing to be done about the Gorgon's fall, heavily implying bringing Ferrus back somehow. Sanguinius got the most loved son moniker, put on him last minute in the Siege of Terror to really ramp up the impact of his sacrifice and death. But in truth, the Emperor never mentioned or showed any favouritism to Sanguinius throughout the entire series, whereas there's a lot for Ferrus Manus. So a Primarch who can clearly mean a lot to the Emperor absolutely has to mean something, and it's clear evidence of the importance of Ferrus and his standing being extremely high amongst his brothers, at least in the Emperor's view, which at the end of the day is the only one that matters. And considering this favouritism and Medusa's proximity to the Eye of Terror, I think there's a definite case to be made for Ferrus having been the one Primarch entrusted with the full truth of chaos from the very beginning. That it was Ferrus Manus that had been resisting their whispers from the start. It would definitely make a lot of sense to me, considering what we know of their relationship. Why the Emperor trusted him, valued him, and wanted clearly so much to bring him back. Ferrus could have quite possibly been the only Primarch ready for the war against the ruinous powers. And let's talk about the prowess of the Primarch. Built like an absolute walking battle tank, a head taller than Vulcan, and in my opinion a definite run for the Lord of Drake's money as strongest Primarch. He had metal hands that could punch through any obstacle, tear, shred or crush the hardest armour, and a fortitude inherited by his legion that could see them weather any storm. Like I said earlier, the Primarchs for me are a bit like rock, paper, scissors, all each better suited to beating certain other brothers, much like how their roles and natures overlap. I think Ferrus unfortunately came up against a Primarch whose style was simply better suited against him. Combined with the emotion of the moment, it led to his loss against Fulgrim. However, he certainly could have and would have beaten other Primarchs in battle, and even Fulgrim on a different day. That's how close all the Primarchs are. Yes, Ferrus is a tale of what could have been, and there's a tease now of even him returning to the galaxy, even though I doubt highly it will ever happen. But when we consider the Primarchs were created specifically for their roles, to fulfill that specific duty for the Emperor, it's pretty clear the Emperor was extremely pleased with Ferrus Manus in that regard. And so it's a definite argument to make that when it comes to duty, performing the requirement the Emperor needed, well, Ferrus Manus may just have been the greatest. He and his legion fulfilled exactly what the Emperor and the Imperium needed of them to the T. And that's more than can be said for a lot of other Primarchs and their legions. And while I'll admit, him being declared the greatest of all the Primarchs is an uphill battle, I think we can all agree losing him so soon in the Heresy series was the greatest tragedy of all. But as always everyone, what do you think? Can you see an argument for Ferrus Manus being named the greatest Primarch of all? Like me, do you think a lot of it may rest on misconception? The perceived reality of Ferrus's death versus the facts? Is the Emperor's clear fondness for Ferrus a sign of his importance? Was it because the role that Ferrus fulfilled? Or was it because simple fatherly attachment? And when it comes to duty, the role performed by the Gorgon and his legion, is that perhaps where his true value can be seen? As always everyone, leave your thoughts in the comments below. Huge thank you to all my subscribers, your support truly means a lot to me, it really does. If you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow, and if you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.